Hey, what's up? Here we go. Hi, Vic 2or. Nice to see you, Vic 2or. I love you too. I don't know you, but I love you. Not in the like personal sense. Like, who knows what you're really like? I really know nothing about you, but I love you in the sense that at one point, long ago, far in the distant past, your atoms were my atoms in the singularity that was the universe. Things have changed a lot since then. We've been far flown. We've differentiated into separate consciousnesses. We've decided to buy into a number of strange, very abstract games called money, success, and individuality. Long ago, you and I, Vic 2or, we were one and the same. And so, on some deep, deep level, I do love you. Vic 2or. Look, Victor, I'm never going to call you Victor. You're always going to be Vic 2or. That's the truth. You know, I didn't pick your handle. You wrote it that way. You thought, oh, this makes sense. Everyone will get this as Victor. Nope. It's Vic 2or. It's Vic 2or. It always feels like the drawings I do aren't good enough. How do I get over that feeling? You just have to accept it. They won't ever be good enough. The better that you get, the more skills you acquire, the better your taste will become. Your taste will always outpace your execution. You'll have more realistic knowledge of what's acceptable, what's going to work, what's going to get the job done, but you will never catch up with your own taste. If you do, there's something weird about that. It's very unusual for that to happen. I've never done a drawing that I couldn't look at later and tell you how it could be better, you know? Accept. Love from Ireland, love from the United States. Hope you've all been doing well. I stopped being on the internet for a bit there because I was was playing a sickness tag with my wife. I'm sure many of you know what that's like. If you're in close enough quarters, there's just, if one person catches one thing, there's no way the other person isn't going to get it, so. I also say that to preface any sudden sneezes that you might get on this stream. I apologize. It's been a very sneezy cold. One will probably sneak through. I'm not quite over it yet, so. Cooper says, well, Gal Dragon Productions, who I know to be a rare and verdant Cooper. Hey, Steven, can you tell me about the octopus drawing from your Instagram? It's quite cool. Well, I'm glad you like it. I don't know. It's an old one. That's from a few years ago now. I did it for one of the ArtStation challenges. Flora and Fauna, I think, is what it was called. Is it? I forget now what the heck. Maybe just I named my project Flora and Fauna. I don't remember what the challenge was at this point. I did it was 2 sci-fi robot teams, one based on plants and one based on animals. And each was a cast of 5 characters, I think it was. So it was a gang of 5 animal-based robots and then 5 plant-based robots. Any tips to make chaotic, horrifying, and disquieting drawings? No. Why would you ask that? It's weird. I have nothing to offer in that regard. Why would your mind go there? Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I do have one good tip. One thing you can always do that works in most horrifying and disturbing drawings is don't put happy kids like eating ice cream and drinking sodas in them. Sometimes it can feel like, oh yeah, you know who would really put this picture over the top? Like a happy kid at a carnival winning the toy that they really wanted from the water boat racing game. Usually if you throw that in the picture, it hurts the feeling of horror, actually. It makes it a little harder to make it feel scary. Some people find that stuff really scary. Like, I personally find that stuff like truly horrifying, like deeply disquieting, like Lovecraftian level existential horror emerges for me from that kind of a thing. But for general audiences, sometimes they don't really find that stuff super spooky. What are you drawing? I never know until I'm done. We'll find out together. Sam Lamb. Welcome to the chat, Sam Lamb. Good to see you as always. Hope all is well with you, Sam. Any tips for keeping things organic without making them even? There's a lot of things that contribute to that. For me, the number one is a variety of shapes. That's number one. You gotta police the shapes that sit right next to each other. If one is square, make the next one round. If one is round, make the next one triangular. And make them all different sizes and shapes. Small shapes next to medium shapes, next to large shapes. Real life, real visual phenomena are built upon a structure, a substrate of intense variety, more variety than can possibly be understood. But when we draw, we tend to regulate everything to the most boring humdrum version possible. It's like one of the first things you need to fight against if you want to draw beautifully from imagination. From Sam, I actually have a substantive non-troll question. Lately, I've been realizing one of my major gaps in creative process is getting in touch with the design mindset. I've been playing with your exercises from Gumroad. That's great. What are your thoughts on copying or borrowing from drawings by my favorite artists? I mean, I've copied my favorite artists incessantly, basically. I haven't been doing it as much lately, but definitely for a big portion of my artistic practice, usually my warm-up was doing some kind of copying. Now I've replaced that with structureless time over the past several years. But before that, yeah, my warm-up was, I had a folder called stuff to copy or draw this, and just with my morning coffee I would sit there and I would copy stuff. In my sketchbook, usually not one-to-one, just like getting it into my bones. I think copies are generally very healthy. The one tip I would give for copies is copy them in a way that you will actually draw, don't, if you're copying like a Renaissance painter who painted in grisaille first, like they would paint it all in gray and then glaze colors over it, don't do that. That's an extreme example, but do the copy in a way that you might actually utilize in your own work. It's very easy to copy things in a way that you are that's not how you naturally draw, And I think that that's a little less productive. Thank you, Brandon. You said to get better at drawing, I have to stop drawing every day, but said to draw every day. I can't stop drawing. I'm obsessed. It's your guilt, man. How are we going to fix that? I don't know, man. There's probably not a lot of ways that I can make it right, if I'm perfectly honest. I mean, maybe I could walk your dog for you, or I could take your dog to a kennel, or I could give you like $5. No, more than $5. I'm definitely not going to offer up more than $5. But honestly, there's probably no way that I can make it right. I mean, you're just going to have to keep drawing, I guess. Nice, peaceful pencil lines here. Nice, peaceful pencil lines here. Your doctor says you have an enlarged prostate. You should do a drawing about it. Draw the stuff that's closest to you in life. Do you do art reviews? Not really. Only in formal teaching contexts, in my classes and workshops, and for my one-on-one students and things like that. I just don't have enough chill to do a casual art review. I've seen too many uninformed rush critiques ruin someone's career for like a year because the reviewer said something thoughtless where they didn't understand the context of that person's goals, and then that person, because they're not an experienced artist, they overreact to it. They think like, all right, I guess that's what I must do. And then 2 years later they're like, why did I do that? I don't like to fling uninformed artistic opinions at students. I think that does more harm than good. I need to really get to know people before I review their art. I need to know their dreams, their goals, what they're like, what their temperament's like. Do you think there is bad art? Not on any ultimate level. There's art that isn't functional for its context, or art that is not fulfilling the goals of that particular artist, right? That can sure feel bad, but in some ultimate sense, no. Art couldn't possibly be good or bad. Art is without structure. Art is not a thing. It is a process. Individual drawings are just individual drawings. And people's judgments as to whether they are good or bad are so much air. Just the wind changing direction. Besides, no matter how hideous, repulsive, or amateur a drawing is, it was always more difficult to make than it is to judge it. Steven, can you tell me the benefits of joining your Patreon? I joined without reading. Early access to the YouTube videos is the biggest benefit. I also put the full resolution scans of my finished pencil drawings on there. There's some Patreon only audio if you go into the back. Sometimes I go on a walk and I'll record a note to my patrons. Stuff like that. I've been enjoying streaming a lot lately, so I think pretty soon I'm gonna start doing patron only streams where I can talk on voice to the patrons and answer questions with voice as I draw. I haven't started doing that yet, but I think that's coming soon. And I'll probably stream those to YouTube private, bank them, and then probably like a week or two after I've done them, I'll make them public videos. But the fun there is actually answering questions with voice. That's always more fun for me. Chatting with people. We'll see. I need a little bit. I gotta probably give that a shot. Start running that sometime in November, I think. I just need my schedule to clear up a little bit. It's very packed right now. Hey Stephen, how do you get over the fear of sharing your art with others? The art I do want to share is never the stuff I want to create. It depends where that fear is coming from. I mean, if you're afraid of sharing your art because it's like really disturbing subject matter, or maybe like super controversial subject matter, or you're like working through a sexual hang-up in your art or something like that, you really just need to resolve who you are with yourself. That's really all it is. If it's the subject matter, yeah, you need therapy, probably. If it's not the subject matter and you're just afraid of people's reactions to your really like just normal art, nobody cares. Nobody cares. You would be very, very lucky to even garner a noticeably negative reaction. Don't let that prevent you from sharing your work. The more common reaction is just people don't grab on at all. They don't dislike. It's not that they don't dislike, they don't like, they don't do anything. You know, you would be lucky if you could garner a strong negative reaction in most cases. Is it possible to study with you online? Yep. Keep an eye out for my next workshop. I'm running one right now. You can't get into that right now, but I'll do another one in the future. Probably, and I'm not sure, probably January, I'll do another one. Did you go to art school? Yes, I did. I went to Art Center College of Design in Los Angeles. Hey Steve, big fan. You've been talking about Darkly Born branded merch. Why haven't we seen anything yet? Asking for a friend. Yeah, the Darkly Born merch is it's coming. It's just you know, it was all being made by China, and it took a really long time to like negotiate the deals for the shirts and the books and the tire rims and the bags of baby carrots. Those deals took a really long time to negotiate. And then when COVID hit, I'm sure you've heard, it's really hurt supply chains all over the world. And unfortunately, we were affected, especially for the Darkly Born scuba gear and especially the Darkly Born GPS unit for cars and delivery vehicles. So we've been dealing with that. We had to cancel a bunch of the orders because they were just taking too long. So, yeah, I wish I could be more definitive, but yeah, you know, I just need you to just give me a little sympathy here. Wait for me to figure this out. Wait for me and the team to figure it out. There's stuff on cargo crates right now heading towards the U.S. So once we get some of that stuff, like I think the Darkly Born Vespas will be here first. You know, it's going to take a while to warehouse it and inventory it and stuff like that, but as soon as we can ship that stuff out, or, you know, electronically deliver it, you'll be good to go. You'll be good to go. And I will let everybody know once that stuff ships. Unless you ordered one of the darkly born chakra alignments, in which case, yeah, obviously you won't need to be notified. You'll just feel it. You'll just feel your kundalini leap out of the top of your head, and you'll know that the process is done. Oh, and it's Joseph. How are you, Joseph? How's my big boy feeling today? I'm on the mend. Today was the first day that I felt better than yesterday. Still not tip-top though. But much better. Energy levels are much better and stuff like that. I just have like crazy congestion now. My breathing's all messed up. Go for it, Justin. You make those boards. You do those boards. Do those boards. When I try to be smooth with my pencil and do some shading, all I get is scratchy. What's the secret? Practice, or is there a way to it? Practice is the number one secret. Number two is go extremely slowly. Pencils are extremely slow medium, and when you use a blending stump, press very hard. Show you the dog. The dog's sleeping. Well, wake the dog up. I'm looking at her right now. Here, I'll take a photo of her for you. Look, she's out cold. You want to bother her? She's out cold like that? Come on. You leave her be. Yo, Joe with the reminder to drink water. Thank you, Joe. Look, the truth is that she's just a little dog. Alright? That's the number one fact you need to know about her. Can't be waking up a little dog like that. She doesn't have the energy for it. She just has so little body mass. Just like she could barely hold enough energy to walk around a little bit. She gotta sleep. She gotta get a rest. She's just a little pup. Anybody making any special art for the impending Halloween? Asked Joseph Marziliani. I feel like my drawings are always Halloween appropriate. What was your best or favorite Halloween costume you've worn? I was Two-Face from Batman once. That was probably my best costume. Bought like a white and a black suit and burned the black one strategically and then cut them in half right down the middle and sewed them back together. Had the black shoes, white shoes, and then did a bunch of face makeup and prosthetics. Used a bunch of latex to like scar up the right side of my face and painted it all purple and red and comic booky looking. Split my hair down the middle and did a weird treatment on one side and left the other side normal. That was probably my best Halloween costume. Hey Steven, may I ask what drives you to put this amount of effort into art, especially on the difficult days when passion doesn't carry through? What drives me to put this much effort into art? I don't know. If I'm perfectly honest, I don't know. Some answers feel right on one day and then they don't feel right on the other. I often just feel possessed by art. Art feels like something outside of me, like a whole other cosmos or a planet that exists on a realm of ideas with incredible gravity. Sometimes it's very far away and its tug is very light, and I can live like I'm not affected by it at all. And then on other days, the gravity is crushing. There is nothing but the cosmic pull of this planet called art passing through whatever plane my consciousness comes from. There's no option. There is no alternative. There's no not thinking about art. I could pretend. I could say, oh, today's not an art day. I could say, oh, today's a day off. Can go do other things, have fun doing other things. But it's always there, tickling the back of my mind. It's a yawning, infinite black maw from which some of my most powerful experiences have come. There's only the brute fact of it. There is no choice. I put the effort in because I must. It is a part of me that runs automatically. I dress it up I tell myself a story. I give myself reasons why I like it, why I do it, why I don't like it, why I shouldn't do it. But the brute fact is just that it happens. I don't know where it came from, and I know not to where it goes. Art is a mystery to me. Can you tell us about your interest in books, shows, YouTube, other than art? Your talks, philosophical words. Seems you have an interesting choice of media other than art. I don't know about interesting. Definitely, I like a lot of very popular stuff for books and shows and things like that. The philosophy stuff definitely comes from a direct interest in philosophy and spiritual things. And I was exposed to, especially Buddhism. I was exposed to Buddhism very young, and that definitely got its claws into me. I was raised Catholic, and that definitely has. I was always very interested in the mysticism of Catholicism and theology. That was the only part I was interested in. I was like, it's the big questions or it's nothing, you know? So I was very interested in that stuff very young. Yeah, that's where that stuff comes from. But as for my media, I don't know, I'm actually pretty into just good popular stuff usually. I'm no academic or anything like that. Books. Love fantasy, love sci-fi. Probably read more sci-fi than I do fantasy. And I just like whatever, you know. I don't really feel like I like really generic bad sci-fi as much as I like great sci-fi sometimes. Fantasy books, Song of Ice and Fire, King Killer Chronicle. Just read the Kingsbridge series by Ken Follett. That's not real fantasy, that's historical fantasy, but I think if you're a fantasy nerd, it's probably up your alley. Sci-fi, I just read the first Hyperion book. I've read a lot of Alistair Reynolds. Three Body Problems / Remembrance of Earth's Past was a great sci-fi series. I have not seen the new Dune. It is not out in the US yet, but I will. I will see it. I'm into it. I haven't read Dune, or I think I read like half of it when I was like 14, but that's basically like, I don't remember it now. Yeah, I think it comes out in like 4 days, like at the beginning of next week or something like that. Definitely gonna check out Dune. Hey Samuel. Thanks, Luca. Nick says, may I ask who are some of your favorite philosophers? Yikes, I mean, the big ones are obviously good. I don't know, I hesitate to give like a too strong an answer to that because like most people who aren't academics, I don't read any primary source philosophy, you know, like I'm not gonna go and like read Kant or something like that. It's basically indecipherable to me, but I'll read secondary sources, analyses and things like that, and I really liked that I've read. You know which philosopher I really do love, who it's mostly because when I hear his ideas I'm like, I don't know if I agree, and it's just so radical and weird, is Plato. I've been getting more and more interested in Plato's weird worldview lately. Yeah, Plato's a current fascination. Does drawing feel like pain to you? I'm always in pain whenever I'm drawing and want to stop. Is that normal, or is there something I'm doing that's wrong? It is normal. You just need to you're misattributing it. The drawing isn't pain. There's no pain in drawing, right? Drawings are just dust on paper. The pain that you're feeling is just a symptom of the fact that you're alone with your thoughts when you're drawing. That's all that it is. Don't blame drawing. Drawing couldn't possibly hurt you. There's nothing there. Nothing's happening there. You're not in pain because you're drawing. It's not a symptom of drawing. It's just because you're alone with your thoughts while you're drawing. So that's something that all artists have to deal with. It is not easy, but you have to be careful to attribute it correctly. There's nothing in drawing that's hard by nature, right? You make it hard. You add a story. You tell yourself a tale. You have all these expectations and all of these goals. And you just tell yourself that the drawing's not fitting into it, or you should be at a different place by now, or it really should be feeling different while you do it. And it's just yakety yak, just discursive, random thought processes that you didn't choose and that you would turn off if you could. It's like, it's not about the drawing. It's just those damn thoughts. So anything that you could do to make you more comfortable with being alone with your thoughts would probably also benefit the drawing. So whatever that is, therapy, medication, meditation, maybe therapeutic medication meditation. Whatever would help you with the thoughts will help you with drawing. And I don't mean you need to change your thoughts or control them or something like that. It's just about reorienting your relationship to those thoughts, you know? How much power are you giving them? How important and real do you think they are? I think once you put them into their proper place, there's a way to use them usefully again instead of being hijacked by them. Will the stream be uploaded? I never take these down. And they just sit there once they're done. What medium would you suggest for people learning to color and render beyond construction? You should use the medium that all of your favorite art is made in. That's the only correct answer to that question. You should make a big chart with your 15 favorite pieces of art that you want to make. Not art you respect, but art that you would want to make to be your art. All 15 of those images should be like, if I made that, I would have fun doing it and I would be proud to have done it. And then whichever medium is dominant on that board, do that one. And start tomorrow. Since you are not alone while drawing on stream... Oh, hey, Nathan. Since you are not alone while drawing on stream, does that change the experience of drawing in a significant way for you? Yeah. I mean, it just makes me a little bit more distracted. Makes me draw slower, generally. But that's about it at this point, I think. There's pros and cons to drawing on stream, I would say. The pros are definitely that I get to chat and hear people's ideas and use the other part of my brain while I work. And then, yeah, the cons are that I'm not quite doing the very best job that I could. If I slow down, I can do close to my best job, but I'm just doing it a little slower. There's pros and cons. in general, I would say the pros very much align with the same pros of teaching. I love teaching because when I teach, it's like every piece of advice I give a student, it's like, I don't know how to put it, but having to say it to a student like makes it true for me. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like just having to hold the mental formation of the piece of advice that I'm giving makes me more inclined to take my own advice or to like suddenly solve that problem for myself. I love teaching for that. It's very good for my mental health, I think. If I don't teach for too long, I really start to I just find myself doing all of the things that I tell people not to do. I get pretty sad if I go too long without teaching. Especially now, because I really don't... These days, I rarely interact with other artists unless I'm teaching. That's really, pound for pound, the time when I'm interacting with the most artists. Yep, I will keep doing workshops, Jay. Luca says, all right, Luca wrote a lot, but I just want to, saying he's looking for a thought or two. Drawing in his free time, three jobs, trying to be a concept artist one day. Look, if you feel like that's tough, that's just because that's tough. You know, doing anything on top of 3 jobs is tough. Don't get discouraged by the fact that it feels tough. Like, what would you expect, really? You know, what you're doing is definitely tough. You don't have all the time in the world to do the thing that you're doing, and you're trying to do a super high-end creative thing. It's like, yeah, accept that it's going to be hard. It's going to feel like crap a lot of the time. I hope that things get easier. I hope that you can get a little bit more free time to do the stuff and things like that. But to be utterly realistic, like, yeah, it's going to hurt. It is going to hurt if you've got to do a whole bunch of other stuff while you do it. But if you're dreaming of being a concept artist, really the advice that I give over and over again truly is my number one piece of advice. Like, you must make the work. Don't get distracted doing nothing but skills-based abstract skill building. You must, I recommend for most people, do a 50-50 split every time that you draw. So if you only have a half hour to draw every day, be creative, rawly creative. Be a concept artist for 15 minutes and then do abstract skills associated to what you just dreamt, right? The creative part. Do abstract skills related to that for the other 15 minutes, and then just do the same split no matter what amount of time you have. Deva Priya bought me coffee, incredible. Thank you so much for the 100 rupees, is it? Are those rupees? Thank you, Deva Priya. Tomorrow's coffee thanks you. Oh boy, gonna cough. Give me a second, gonna mute. Ooh, all right. Jeez. How do you recommend getting started as a teacher? Was that aspect of your career an outgrowth of your YouTube channel, or did you promote in other ways? It was very natural for me. I actually wouldn't know. I started teaching, and this is, you know, you don't have to do this, but this is a general recommendation. It's like, once you're getting like a daily message or two from people asking you to teach them, you should probably start teaching. That'd be a good time to start teaching. I started teaching once I was getting like, 3 messages a day from strangers that were like, hey, can you help me out? That made it very clear that there was something I could offer there. If there wasn't anybody already reaching out to me, I don't know how you would brand it. You know, you'd need to do some sort of salesman pitch on that. Thanks, Ada. Will you have another workshop? Surely. Maybe in January? Anna says, "Hey Steve, my art demons just wanted to thank you for turning me into a devoted slave." Aw, my art demon is very, very pleased to hear that. My art demon is an art demon whose main focus is to do things to or change things about other people's art demons, so I've greatly gratified him. Samot says, "Did you learn from Scott Robertson at Art Center?" Yes, I did. He was the department chair for my first year there in my program. He and Thomas Bertling were my perspective teachers, and I was lucky enough to take design process with Scott as well in my second semester. Hello, Steve. What did you study in design process with Scott? I mean, there's only one way that you learn design in any class. You go over the principles of design briefly, and then you just do projects. I ain't kidding out here, folks. You gotta do projects. There's no way to teach design in the abstract. Scott just gave us projects, you know? Stuff from books, reiterations of projects he had run in other contexts, and then just critique. That's the only way to learn design. Design cannot be learned in the abstract except for the initial tool bag of the principles of design. The principles of design is the language that you use to discuss design, or at least the most common one. It's just a construct. And then design beyond that is really just communicated via direct transmission. You know, it can't be learned in abstract. It's not something you can, quote unquote, teach like that. Instead, you've just heard good designers give good design critique for so many hours that one day you're just like, oh, I get it. And it's done. Also, to get it doesn't mean you'll just always design good things. Like, design is just, it's always hard, or else you wouldn't be designing anything, right? Or else there would already be an answer. It's just it is a process of problem solving. You know what? Design might not be a thing at all. It's just try to achieve your goal and do whatever it takes. That might be all it is. Is there a book PDF where we could find the principles of design, the initial tool bag? I'm sorry. As I've said so many times, there really is not a great one right now, and I am working on it. I am working on a principles of design course, but I cannot recommend one outright right now. Just look them up. Just Google them. Read some of the blog posts and stuff about them, but yeah, none of them are very cumulative. They're very cursory. I'm trying to make an in-depth course about the principles. Do you offer mentorships for design too? In my workshops, I basically just try to convince everybody to do design projects. For some people, the month winds up being a month-long exorcism on why they should do real projects instead of just doing skill-based. But for anyone who's ready to jump in, yeah, it basically just becomes a month of design critiques. But doesn't that apply to art as well, when all art is making cool pictures, statues, figures, etc.? You bet. Wow. Has the online art industry lied to you and tried to make you think that art is more complicated than it really is? You bet. Just keep going. Make things great. Just we need, most artists, not all artists, but most artists need some useful lie about art education. They need to feel like some of this is real, because most artists are not like temperamentally just Zen masters who live in paradox and can understand void nature and things like that. Like, that's just not comfortable for most people. That's not comfortable for most human beings. So to play a nice little game where we all tell ourselves like, no, there's something to hold on to here. You can understand art in this way. It's like, that's a necessary delusion for a lot of people in art. You need something to grapple with, some kind of words to use, something to pick apart. But yeah, rest assured, none of that's real. You can just do it, man. And it's funny, you say that and people will die on that hill. You know, people will fight you on that. People will kill their grandmothers to prove that, no, you can't just do it. Art is a science. There's a real thing to it. It's like, ugh, ridiculous. Oh man, don't ever get two philosophers into a fight, am I right? I think we wound up getting a beautiful example of sophistry out of Emmanuel and Moritz, just two philosophers not being able to agree on what they're arguing about. Oh man, that's funny. If you guys could kindly shut up a little bit. You guys are clogging up the chat with stuff no one else really wants to talk to. I love it. Trust me. I love that stuff as much as anybody else, but I let you guys dominate the chat for long enough, so I'm going to kindly ask that you set your argument aside or give each other your phone numbers and fight about animal welfare elsewhere. How do you train creativity? Only through repetition. I think creativity has two aspects, which is the repetition, the raw repetition, increasing the sophistication of your opinions and your decision making through repetition, and then the removal of blocks, just not letting your own neuroses and personal psychology get in the way of having certain kinds of ideas and being open. Everything else is a mystery, I think. find art making to be more of a conscious or unconscious act? It's conscious when I'm doing it for clients, and when I do it for myself, I try to do it more unconscious. But there's a bit of both, no matter what, I think. And I think that the separations between those things are actually quite fuzzy. When working digital, you ever hop between different drawing softwares? I jump between all kinds of softwares. Go from 2D to 3D, draw in Photoshop, then kick it over to Procreate and draw on my iPad. I just try to do, like, if there's a program that does that particular aspect better, I feel no resistance to jumping over to it. I like to draw on my iPad and then do layer management and painting in Photoshop. Can we all really be better if he becomes a part of our art? If he becomes a part of our art? Who do you mean? Who's he? The devil? Satan? Will we all feel better if the devil becomes part of our art? I don't know, I mean, depends on the deal you cut with him, I guess. Do you have a drafting table? How do you work without straining your neck back on paper? I do not have a drafting table. Not these days. I don't have enough room for it. I used to. I just draw on a flat, cheap banquet table. And I do strain my neck and back. I'm just really used to it because I've done it like for some part of the day, every day for most of my life. So I'm very used to it. But trust me, my ergonomics are not ideal. Not ideal. I'm just truly so used to it that it really doesn't bother me much anymore.
I just hope that someday someone would love me.
The Great Milenko says, what's your gut reaction to thinking about certain truths that become organically apparent in your art? I am not sure what you mean, I'll be honest. My gut reaction? I mean, if something feels true, that doesn't mean it is true, but it's certainly powerful that it feels true, and I'll just investigate that. If you're just asking me in general, like, have I learned things from my art? Certainly. I've learned a lot about myself. Nothing about math or tennis, but certainly a lot about myself. What scanner do you use for your big drawings? I use a small scanner. I just stitch a number of small scans together. Very easy with Photoshop's photo merge option. It's old, very old scanner. It's like from the early 2000s now, I think. Gets the job done. Big ones are cheaper now though. I used to not be able to get anything larger than letter size for like less than $3,000, but now there's a few options that are only a few $100s. I'll probably get one of those sometime soon. I just don't really need it since doing photo merges works fine. You ever live out west? Oh yeah, I lived in Los Angeles for like 9 years. It was 8 or 9, I think. Beautiful country out west, beautiful country. No startup observer. The anatomy does not need to be logical and apparent. And there probably is no logical or apparent anatomical solution. Real, quote unquote, real anatomical solution for that. No animal that has anything that we would consider arms, the kinds of arms you're thinking of, has ever needed them or used them or had them that we know of. So they're probably just utterly impractical anatomically. So just go ahead, just make it up. They would probably just get in each other's way for everything that you wanted to use them for. Like if I had 4 arms right now, what would I be using it for? It would just be holding my coffee and like putting it to my lips. Like what a huge caloric expenditure to maintain that arm metabolically for it to just hold my drink. It's like I already hardly use my left hand for anything. You into Taoism at all, Stephen? I guess I don't know what it would mean to be into Taoism. I know some of the ideas from it. I briefly tried to read the Tao Te Ching once, but it's very I get the feeling it's very hard to. I don't think it's for just reading. I think that it's so intimately tied with Chinese culture and history that you kind of need to know what it was arising from to get the most out of it, and I didn't, so I bounced off pretty quick. If what you're essentially asking me is if I'm down with stay in the center of all things, like, sure. I'm a bohemian weirdo from New York City, like whatever weird thing you have in mind, I probably am like, cool. Sounds dope. Why is that not charging? I'll be right back. I gotta go to the restroom. 1 second. All right, back in the seat. back in the seat. I'm back in the seat of drawing. Steven, what advice can you give to a person that would love to draw in one genre, but only does good paintings, drawings, is actually from another? You need to follow what you're most interested in, not what comes easily or what seems to be best right now. That's a poisoned arrow with a honeyed tip. To see how dangerous that is, you only need to look at how many artists are out there with great technical skills who all they do is bemoan the fact that they cannot bring themselves to execute their dream project. They just do not have the mental wherewithal to follow through with the thing that they thought they were gaining all those skills for. It's like if you don't force yourself to do the thing that you're like, oh, that's the thing I should be doing, it's like some other easier thing will definitely accrue, the dopamine benefits, the reward system, all the incentives, and then, it won't be long before it's impossible for you to live your dreams. You'll just be, pushing out hand studies or whatever, just get slightly more likes on Instagram. No joke, happens to everybody. Don't let it happen. It's comical how many artists I know who feel like they're stuck drawing stuff they hate. It's like, what are you doing to yourself? It's like, maybe you do that for money, but for yourself? No. No, thanks. None for me, thanks. I'm good. Do you ever do art collabs? No, not really. I generally just like to draw whatever is interesting to myself at any given moment. I mean, client work is often one giant art collab, so I feel like that's enough. I feel like I've spent enough time doing that for work. Pierce Brosman says, Steven, you're my favorite artist. That's messed up. How weird. I don't know if you really mean that or if that's just like some fun thing that you're saying, but if you really mean that, that's like, what an odd thing. I am tripping out on that. It's like, I have favorite artists, so I know how that feels, and it's like, that's a trip. I don't even know what to say about that. That makes me feel like I'm a super giant black hole at the end of the universe. Like all the way at the end of time. And that makes me feel like I'm just a spinning singularity at the heat death of the universe. It's not a bad feeling. I find that mechanical lead will sometimes dig into my paper and tear it. Is it because I am using too soft of a paper or too hard of a lead, or both? Does that ever happen to you? I use pretty thick paper generally when I draw. Yeah, it's probably just too thin. I really only draw on this heavy Strathmore stuff, and that's quite thick. And my sketchbook, which is Moleskine sketchbooks. It's the sketchbook line, so it is technically a Moleskine sketchbook. And they're both quite thick. They can both take quite a bit of abuse. Do self prints. If not, why not? I do self prints. If you just Google Steven Zapata art prints, I'm sure you'll find my in-print store. I'm just not big on it because, like, I'm not always pushing them or anything because prints don't really make a lot of money unless you're selling them in person at, like, cons. I really only sell them, I really only make them available because it's pretty easy for me to make them available with something like in print, and just some people really want them, so it's just there as a service to those people. They really don't make much money. I have not watched Violet Evergarden. Cool name though. Steven, do you think that an experience gap exists between people who go to art school and self-taught in art, or just drawing experience and passion, or it makes the difference? No, so there's really high quality people on either end. I think that the main thing that art schools offer that there's very little room for online is feedback and good faith on personal projects. That's something that you get to do at least once in most traditional art schools, and there's basically zero of that in online art teaching. Online art teaching, because it's based on just like speaking to a general audience, is really focused on this particular skill and do this, A, B, C, D. But obviously you can't do that to give people personalized individual feedback on real projects. To do that, you need to actually spend time with them, stuff like that. That's the biggest thing that holds back, maybe the only thing that holds back online art education. It's really just that and networking. Everything else I think is probably better learned online and self-taught sometimes. But yeah, the lack of critique for personal projects is really the big win for traditional art schools. That is the reason that's basically all I do in my workshop. It's my personal little war against that particular problem that I've identified. What art books do you recommend? I recommend different stuff to different artists, unfortunately. For me, the best one that generally applies to most people who want to get better at drawing is drawing lessons from the old masters by Drawing Lessons from the Great Masters by Robert Beverly Hale. It does not read modern. That's what I'll say. Don't read it don't get it if you don't like to read art books, because you need to read that one. You have to actually read the words. And don't get it if you don't like stuff that reads old, because it definitely reads very old. But there's basically no other art books that discuss decision making and design and editing, which is hysterical, because that's like, yeah, once you get past the crap, the like skills based stuff, that's all drawing is. So it's very, very funny that, yeah, nobody talks about it. It's really just that book. What are your thoughts on FZD school? I really don't know enough about it to give an informed opinion. See a bunch of decent looking student work from there. But I don't know anything about their program or how they structure it or how long it takes or what it costs or anything like that, so. You meant like the art of books? Oh, I don't know. I have a bunch of them, but they're just, you know, from random stuff that I thought had cool art. How to go from drawing 10 minutes a day to, let's say, 3 hours? A minute at a time, baby. A minute at a time. You just gotta remove your mental resistance. That's probably it. Hey, Obata Design. It's like there's nothing hard about art, right? I mean, like physical exertion wise. If you're having trouble drawing for as long as you want, it's because you're stuck in your own head. You're grappling with your own thoughts. So you gotta change your relationship with them if they're driving you away from the drawing board. Hello, draw, sleep, repeat. Shot with the $10, incredible. Thank you so much for the coffee. That's gonna buy a big coffee. That is gonna buy a big coffee, Shad. I'm gonna look like a little kid toting that coffee around. I'm gonna look like a little toddler, both arms wrapped around a massive coffee. I'm gonna run around New York City like, look at this coffee that Shad got me. Wow, isn't it amazing? Hey guys, check out my giant coffee. Whoa, Steven, where'd you get that giant coffee? Oh, this guy in a stream called Shad gave it to me. I regret the direction that went in. I'll say that. Thanks for constantly reminding about the length that the drawings take. I always agree with your points, but only recently that I started to understand what you meant when I finally finished a piece. Yep. It's real, my friends. These things take a long time. Steven, how have you gotten by as an artist for so long being a floating, talking hand? Very inspiring stuff, you know? It's not easy. It's not easy being a floating, talking hand. Good luck, mostly. Good luck. And a lot of support from the Floating Talking Hand Association of America, providing job placement for floating talking heads in the United States since 1737. Did you do a 3D sculpture before this one, or are you inventing as you go? This one I'm inventing as I go. I'll go sculpt something if I really decide I like this one and I hit like a particular snag. I usually don't start with a sculpture. I'll make a very particular reference, yeah, if I'm like, oh, this one surprised me with what it's capable of. And if I could just get a really good answer for this particular form problem. Or if this winds up being like an access drawing to make me realize that I really like this idea and I'm gonna redo it from scratch, but better, then I'll probably sculpt something before I do that redo. Or shoot reference or hire a model or whatever it takes. I gotta do more model hiring. I've only done that once. I want to incorporate that into my process more. Annie, you just gotta stretch, you know? I've never had wrist pain so bad that I had to stop drawing, but it definitely happens all the time. I think my tendons are just used to the pain because I've been drawing for so long. You just gotta stretch. I do this all the time while I'm working. If I feel anything coming up, I do one of those. I do one of these. Do each of the fingers. Side to side. From soft games don't count, Felipe. Alright, if it isn't Bloodborne, then best game in terms of visuals. Pure visuals. Man, it'd probably be a different answer on any day that you ask me. I think in terms of sheer, just straight up design, I don't know. That's really hard to pick. Yeah, I wouldn't know. I'd need to think about, like, well, am I evaluating it on art direction, on uniqueness, on complexity of design? It's tricky, man. I thought God of War, the new one, had a really difficult design job to do that they did very, very well and at scope. Felt very scopy. Felt huge, felt big. Very difficult, heavy lift. I thought they did a very good job on that. Maybe that. But I love how unique a game like Hades, for example, looks. Really hard to get over Hades. You know, it just has like so... It's so strongly steeped in... There's like one artist who did everything, you know? What's her name? I think it's Gen Z. I think that's her name. It's just like so steeped uniformly, perfectly in her style that it's like... There's no faking that. But that's like apples to oranges, you know? And then there's games that I haven't even played that I love their art style, like the Darksiders games. Like, not really my kind of game, but I look at the art for them all the time, and I look at playthroughs, like admire the color design and the levels and things like that. There's all sorts of games I haven't played that I admire for their art. Do you have any hobbies outside of art? Not really. I used to say maybe writing, but I started incorporating the writing with the art, with the YouTube channel and things like that, so... Sorry, I just had to step away from the drawing board for a second here. I'm returning soon enough. I'm getting lucky that my dog is out cold. Because it's about her walk time. Shit, I shouldn't have said that. She didn't hear me. We're good. What kind of dog do you have, and how good is it at art? I'm not sure what kind of dog she is. She's a Pomeranian something, but the something is really up for grabs. And yeah, she's extremely good at art. She's extremely good at art. Very, very good. Freakishly good. Upsettingly good. It's like, I wish I was that good. Very graceful drawings and paintings. Perfect structure. Sublime value choices. Utterly singular and yet completely characteristic of the thing that she's trying to depict. It's really uncanny. Where'd my kneaded eraser go? My dog's so good at art, it doesn't need to actually exist for it to make art? Can your dog beat that one? Well, I feel like if I imagine what the most perfect dog artist would be, if I ascribe it the characteristic of being a great dog artist who also exists, that sounds like it would be better than a great dog artist who doesn't exist. So I think by existing, that ensures that my dog makes better art than your dog. Just by the logic of the classic fallacious argument for the greater being one that exists. Cheers, Pets Cop. Oh man, can't shake this cold, man. That makes it sound like I've had it forever. It's been 4 days. It's pretty typical cold timeline. Yeah, tea. It's definitely the first thing I'm doing once I get off of stream is having some tea. Some good tea. And he says, one thing I admire besides your talent and skill is the ability to sit and patiently shade your work to perfection. I personally get very anxious and fidgety and can only sit for 1 hour max. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. I do think, well, I should say that it's not really about patience for me. At least it's not all about patience, because for me it's fun in the picture when I'm doing that. Yeah, so it's not all patience, it's fun for me. I find shading and rendering to be a good old time. And they're definitely not shaded to perfection. When it comes to stuff like that, like rendering and turning things and making form, you really can do that forever, so. I can always look at my drawings and see where I could have gone further, where I could have done better. But you might find, if you focus on how you're feeling while you do it and find ways to make it more fun for yourself and maximize the parts of the process that you find truly enjoyable, I think you'll find that you'll be more inclined to sit and spend a long time doing it. At a certain point though, yeah, I do acknowledge that one of the things that will just make my drawings look different than a lot of people's is that I'm willing to sit with them for way longer than most people are. I'm glad, Shakwe. Glad the videos have helped you. Have you ever had any art shows? No, Obata, I haven't. Well, that's not totally true. I've shown a few things in little group shows here and there, but not anything big. And it wasn't for stuff like this, what people tend to think of as my art now. In those group shows, I was showing like design work. Another one was like themed pieces towards a particular theme of the show. I'm not really in that gallery or show world, you know? I imagine galleries would be very uninterested in my work. They'd be like, huh, demons and stuff. You mean what art history's been for like 700 years? Cool. Got anything new? Galleries are very interested in the new and the interesting. Nestor says, what paper do you use for pencil work like this? It is Strathmore 400 series Bristol paper. Steven, are you designing your shadow shapes in the figure you're doing right now in the local values of the figure, or is it in just the halftone? I'm not sure I totally understand your question, so I'm just going to instead point out what I think is halftone and what I think is true shadow. That's true shadow. This whole strip over here is true shadow. This stuff, I'd probably say that's halftone. It's probably going a little dark right now. It could become true shadow though. This stuff is probably halftone. Ben Lamy with $5 Canadian. Thank you for the inspiration and for the energy you put into what you do, Steven. Oh, thank you so much, Ben. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Could always have more energy. I feel like it's like whenever I get a comment like that, it's like, really? I'm just sitting here slowly moving my hand. It's kind of funny. Maybe I'm doing too much lazy sketching. Thank you so much, Ben. I appreciate the $5. I'll put them to good use. I'll buy coffee or Sour Patch Kids with them. Get myself on a sugar high. Run around town proclaiming the benefits of drawing for all human beings. People will say, Steven, what's got you so zealous about drawing? I'll say, it's these Sour Patch Kids I bought with these $5 that Ben Lamy gave me. People will be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, actually. That makes a lot of sense. Wow, holy crap. I'll be like, yep. You gotta get on this Ben Lamy Sour Patch game, kid. Steven, do you have any advice for keeping interest in long projects? I've been involved in a project that spanned years and I find myself phoning it in for a lot of the work now. That's tough. I think it would probably come down to the individual project. And that's a very hard situation to be in. There's probably no generalized advice for that. You have my sympathies. Whatever you can do, I would do it. Find some way to sneak, some way to invigorate yourself into the project. Maybe you can't, because the project has like a very defined script or style or something like that. Maybe it really limits you, but whatever you can do, treat it as a priority and find some way to make yourself pumped about it again. Walter Jones says, This isn't making any sense. How are you drawing again today? You can't be good if you're drawing every day. This is impossible. You fell for my clever ruse. I told people not to draw every day just so that they would be behind because I would be drawing every day behind the scenes. Now the truth is revealed, but it's too late. I'm the Lord of Drawing. Bow, subjects, bow. Gaze ye upon my works and despair. That was like drawings shooting out of me when I shouted despair. Yeah, I think I just listened to enough Yu-Gi-Oh! And Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon as a kid that anime version of any encounter thing is just always running in the back of my head. The dog must be used to this. The dog is deeply, deeply used to this. She doesn't even open her eyes anymore for this crap. Bro, you still live? Oh yeah. What have I been on for? 2 hours, 45 minutes, I think? That's nothing, man. Barely anything happens on a pencil drawing in 3 hours. Barely anything changes. This is a slow, peaceful, methodical art. I'm always just trying to make my peace with that. Yeah, 3 more hours on it? Sure, it'll look barely different. But that's alright, because that's the only way to get to the juice. The juice! If you just take your time with it and accept how long it takes. Damn! There's nothing I love so much in the world as a juicy, finicky little pencil drawing. You ever use Bic pens? Nah, dude. Those are the tools of the oppressors. I make all my own tools. Pentel is my personal brand. I make this in my garage. How long would something like this take? I mean, a totally finished pencil drawing of mine will easily take me 100 hours. You might be faster, you might be slower. Anything's on the table. But for me to think of a pencil drawing as done, that's somewhere in the 50 to 100 hour territory. I'll show it before then. I'll even, if the design is nice, I'll put it in my portfolio unfinished. But for it to be a drawing that I would look at and say, yeah, that one's done. Yeah, somewhere between 50 and 100 hours probably. Why not use graphite powder and a brush or sponge? I do sometimes for backgrounds and things like that. But there's really no substitute for just doing it by hand with the graphite. The finish that I know I'm capable of with a sharp graphite tip, there's no faking it with anything else. And everything else kind of gets in the way. It makes things look uneven. It makes things feel ununified. Quick question. Have you had trouble learning female or male anatomy in specifics? If yes, which one was harder? Have I had trouble? Anatomy is like the hardest stuff if you're really trying to go into it in detail. It's a heavy lift. It took me a very long time and there were plenty of difficulties. Get good instruction, buy good books, draw more than you study. Nothing is more helpful than drawing your ass off. You don't seem to have the kind of patience for this stuff? Oh yeah, it's definitely not for everybody. It is not for everybody. It wouldn't be for me if it weren't generally very peaceful to do. But it's generally a very calm, meditative exercise, so it's not so bad. Tim, I studied with Ray Bustos in Los Angeles. I took several of his classes and I was his teacher's assistant for a couple years. And I specifically became his teacher's assistant so I could re-listen to all of the lectures I'd already been to. Is it actually possible to increase, improve, or regain patience? It is. I just think that it's not I think it is possible, but I think that process is actually just a process of being happier and more joyful with your practice and not judging yourself so bad. It's like drawing is totally, if you're not in your own head and making yourself miserable, like why wouldn't you want to spend more time drawing? Like it's less patience and more like just want to be sitting here doing it, you know? Patience implies that it's like some sort of noble virtue or something like that. And it's really more just like, there's nothing I'd rather be doing, you know? For the most part, you give up on things and walk away from the drawing board and quit on pieces because you built up a disgusting patina of disappointment with yourself. If you can prevent that from happening, if you just stop letting yourself accrue random judgments about yourself, it's really not a big deal to sit in front of a drawing for a very, very long time. Ray has some very interesting courses online. Ever watched those? How do they compare? I have not watched them. Just from the thumbnails, it looks like it's basically just him doing his class lectures in front of a blackboard and everything. Just there's a camera on him. That's how I learned, so should be good. Do you do fully realized drawings in HB? Hi, Bo. No, they usually always have some other darker pencil in the shadows, but I do the vast majority of the work with HB. But at some point in these definitive like shadow areas, I usually go in with a darker pencil. These days, one of these, a Palomino Blackwing, and I'll use that to darken down the general tone of the shadow. You could do it with an HB, it would just take much longer. And I generally don't use anything lighter than an HB. I'll use a rare 2H for a very particular thing. But generally speaking, pencil is already so light and hard to see that I don't want to use any of those lighter tones very much. It's just going to disappear completely. I have a very light touch generally, so the bigger thing for me is pressing harder, getting darker. getting darker. Oh geez, it's almost 6 here. It's getting late. I gotta keep that dog from peeing. She's gonna get spiteful pretty soon and just come drop one right next to my desk. Alright, I'm gonna stay on for like a few more minutes, maybe 5 more minutes. And then we will end this stream. So if I could be helpful to you in any way in those few minutes, throw questions in the chat. Any final comments or anything like that? Any incisive criticisms? Now's the time. Hey Steven, I've really wanted to tell stories for years now, but can't decide which path to focus on for this, from inked black and white comics to rendered realism illustration, mostly high fantasy. Any tips? If you want to tell stories, I would not do rendered realism illustrations. They just take way too long. If you do that, you'll probably never tell your story. I would pick something quicker. Do you have a favorite drawing? It's probably a Frazetta. It's probably a Frank Frazetta. I always love that Kubla Khan ink drawing of his, of the warrior character slumped over the dead bodies of his friends. That might be my favorite drawing of all time. Have you tried pointillism? Nope. I've tried broken color and stuff like that, but like true pointillism? No. General advice for a high school student? Draw your ass off. Mileage, mileage, mileage. Don't let anything slow you down. And do projects. Don't just practice abstractly. Get used to making product, finishing things, doing folios, illustrating books, doing concept design projects. Whatever it is that your dream is, just do the dream. Don't put it off. Just accept that it's going to be bad and not up to your taste, because yeah, you're a high school student. You haven't practiced that much, but you probably have excellent taste, right? You love the things you love because they're dope. So yeah, just accept that your drawings will not be up to your taste and do them anyway. You need to build a habit of finishing product. There is, as someone who suffered from that and still does, I can tell you, I can promise you that if you don't build that habit young, it's the hardest thing to teach yourself later. It ruins so many careers. ship, product, ship, product, ship, product. Can you zoom out before you go so we can see the full thing? There's not much to see on the outskirts. That's what it looks like right now. I'm not sure what else I'll add. I'll probably add stuff to it. And I don't know what. I gotta tape it off later and get an idea for it as a full picture. Is it possible to develop love for things you previously were indifferent about or even disliked? Not if you're forcing it. If it's something that you're opening your heart to for the first time and then love flows naturally, yeah, sure, but you can't fake love. You can't fake interest. And you shouldn't try to force it. You should instead find a route that doesn't need you to pretend to be something that you're not. Ted Friedman says, hey, any tips on balancing personal projects for yourself versus practicing the fundamental/studying? Sorry I did that. I got a little bored and tired, so I just had to start riffing on it, or else I was going to space out. Balancing personal projects versus practicing the fundamental studying. I generally recommend a 50-50 split with whatever amount of time you have. If you have a half hour, do a personal project for 15 minutes, practice the fundamentals for 15 minutes. If you have a year, 6 months doing the project, 6 months studying, broken up day to day or whatever. Don't actually do half the year like one, half the year the other. It's just generally like day-to-day splits. If you draw all day, do the personal project for 4 hours, do the studying for 4 hours. I generally recommend a 50-50 split. That's already really hard for people to do, but I should be clear, I think ideally you do more time on your personal project than you do studying. A better split would be 70-30, but most beginners can't stomach it. It makes them want to throw up. They accrue too much disappointment in themselves and they think that matters, and so they quit. Hey Steven, do you like thinking up poses or do you have trouble with them because it's something in particular that I struggle with? If so, any tips? It's like my favorite thing. That's like my favorite thing to do. I have to try to not just... I have to instead put effort into not just drawing little sketches of naked men leaping through the air for 8 hours a day and never finishing anything. That's like what naturally comes out of me. My tips for that would just be, think of them in the abstract first, design them like they're a shape, and then make them a pose second. That might be what cracks it open for you. It's like what part is squished, what part is stretched, what part is long, what part is short. Like, play with it as a drawing and then turn it into a body later. Yeah, Obata, you gotta do project. Ship product, ship product, ship product. If you don't get used to doing that young, oh God, it's the hardest thing to learn later on in your art career. Most artists find it impossible, and then they just never... They got really good for no reason. They just never follow their dreams. Good for you, Super Space Turtle. Wow, 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 wow. That was a generic space sound, because you're a space turtle. Oh, boy. All right, what else? All right, looks like everybody's out of questions. Do you have a motivating mantra to keep us drawing when you'll go? No, you need your own mantra. You got to find your own reason to keep going. Somebody else's reason to keep making art will never be satisfactory. Coming up with the project idea worth investing time into is the hard part, though. It is. It's hard, but it's essential. It is essential. Tarek says, hey Steven, I just recently got out of college. Any advice on balancing your art and temporary job? Right now the job I'm currently working is 12 hours a day and I fit in drawing when I can. That's tough. I mean, if your job is 12 hours a day, that's intense. I'm not going to pretend I have a good answer for you because I've never personally been in that situation. I've done plenty of drawing jobs that I was like, I wish I was drawing something else, and I still, you know, I was dissatisfied with what I was drawing for work, and then at night I would go home and continue to draw my own thing. But to not be able to draw at all because the job is dominating is tough. But progress is still possible, eminently possible, even in limited time frames. So I would just concentrate on follow your joy, really insist on following your joy and doing stuff that super excites you, so that that little bit of drawing that you can fit in is quality drawing time. If it's quality drawing time, you'll still make progress. Would you want to be one of your drawings? Oh, I would love to be one of my monsters. If I could just rip my skin like a chrysalis right now and just explode into a Lovecraftian monstrosity, I'd do it right now. I would do it right now. I would love to just become the only one of those in the world. Do you drink coffee with or without sugar? Without sugar. My pleasure, Alexander. I don't have many good tips for hand pain. Just stretch constantly, but if it really gets a lot, you gotta go see a doctor. They'll give you real tips. I just do basic hand stretches with regularity. And the ones where you fold your wrist up, fold your wrist back. Greetings from New York, Naka. All right. I gotta run, everybody. Take care, everyone. Good luck with your drawings today. Keep up the good work.